Thanks.
Okay, great. All right. So I will kick off the meeting. Welcome to the Monday, June 14th, 2021 Permanent Building Committee meeting. We have 3 agenda items, one main one. The first one is the approve the minutes. The second is the public safety update, any discussion around that. And then we have other business. There is 3 or 4 items on other business that we just need to catch up on at the end of the meeting. With the majority here in a quorum, I will ask to kick off the approve the minutes agenda item and ask for a move to approve the last meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the minutes of the May 17th meeting be approved as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, George. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote, we will do roll call. George.
Aye.
Richard.
Aye.
Irwin.
Aye.
Roy.
Aye.
Chair is aye. Okay, great. We will now move to the public safety. I think we need to bring in the user group. So let's wait till the user group comes in and then I will hand it to Mr. Ken. So Steve, are you going to bring in the John and both chiefs? Okay, there's Chief Condon. And Chief Schlittler. Okay, great. All right, so Ken, I'll turn it to you.
All right. Schedule update over at headquarters. The exterior stud, if you've been by, you can see a lot of this, but the exterior studs are pretty much completed. Some minor details left there. They started some of the sheathing and the parapet work around the top in hopes of getting the roofer in to start the wood blocking. The detention area and the Sallyport block is ongoing. Got a little wet in the Sallyport today, but they're able to work on the first floor in the detention area as the second floor has been poured. So it's somewhat dry under the second floor slab. Interior studs are underway. They're complete virtually on the upper level, and they've started their layout on the lower level. They poured the Sallyport slab, and MEP is continuing on the upper level. They got most of the fire protection in. Plumber's been up there working, the electrician, and they've been hanging duct work on the main level. Over at Fire Station 2, the brickwork's complete. They get MEP work ongoing on all levels. But on the upper level, they've got the sheetrock in, painting's been done. Ceiling this week, I believe they're going to start with that. They're substantially complete on the main level with their sheetrock. Taping's done on the lower level also. And the curtain wall and the windows are underway. They've got working on the second floor, and they're working in the bunk rooms, putting the windows in the bunk rooms. Still on track for that late October, early November on Fire Station 2, and January, February substantial completion on PD. So anybody any questions on the schedule? All right, the ACL, the big thing you'll notice in the ACL, if you also looked at the change order, is we moved the restoration of the Hillside facility over into, it's actually in the change order this month. So that drastically reduced the ACL. I'm trying to see if there's anything new on here of a larger type. We've got actually some of these numbers have changed. I actually got the final numbers today. So for instance, the UPS connections is less than half of that number, along with the angle on the mechanical bay. So some of these numbers are actually lower than what they show on here that I sent out on Friday. So does anyone have any questions on the ACL?
Is it appropriate to ask whether what our burn rate is relative I think this meeting, we were gonna ask a bit about that. We can do it after this, but
It's
is
less
the ACL and what we're doing.
it's less
staying
than the
steady?
yeah, it's less than the 65 we had been anticipating. So what we had even last month with a month and a half's worth, this month the change order, while it is substantial, the bulk of it is the temporary facility reconstruction. So we've only got roughly 36,000, and when you back out the COVID, we're down around 27,000 for this month on the on the change order. And as far as the ACL is concerned, even with those higher numbers, and then some of that is, obviously we've got the COVID in there, and we're still carrying that tariff number. But let me find the number here. If you back out the tariff and the remaining COVID, we're somewhere around 60,000 for on the ACL, and those numbers, as I said before, are a little high. So we're doing good versus the 65 that we were anticipating.
Is there any rough calculation that says that we're tracking to 1.1, 1.4?
I couldn't throw that at it, Stuart, because I don't know all I can say is what we've done the past 3 months and what we have currently in the ACL are below the 65. Going forward, we might have a month where it's 80. I can't.
Sure, but what I'm saying is right now, with the assumption, with what and maybe it's next time, what we've actually burned and what it looks like if the remaining months are 80 and 60. That's it. Just kind of like the quick analysis.
Well, if we continue along the 65, now I gotta pull my cheaters out here. Right now, based on everything we have 658 left in the contingency if we spend everything, including the COVID and the tariffs. And this is so we've got 7 months roughly left. So we've got 90,000+ a month if we were to spend it all.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Other questions, anybody at this point?
So there's nothing.
Comment. My
George?
comment is obviously there'll be, as long as we're spending at a rate of 60 or 65, that's not a problem. But you're always going to find that things need to be done after you supposedly, quote, finish the job. So spending 60 to 65 is fine with me right now, because I think we'll end up spending some later that isn't anticipated.
Thus, we have a contingency to the contingency.
Right.
That is correct, George. But if we spend the 65 right now and project out the 7 months,
We should be okay.
that leaves us $200,000 of contingency.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. We should be okay. 7 sixes is 42, right? 420, we've got a 680 contingency or something like that. So it'll leave us $250,000 left, which we'll use some of afterwards. But yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
And that's what we expected when we asked for the extra money.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before Ken, you move on?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
no other questions. That's good, Stuart. You can go into the
Invoices.
the invoices and the change order. Yes.
So we'll do the change order first, and then we'll move to the invoices. Catherine, I've got the spreadsheet here. Is anything I should know about changes or anything?
Nope, it should be as listed on the sheet.
Okay, So I'm gonna do the change order first, which is change order number 29 for 376,443 from the general contracting budget. Do you want to just talk quickly on any major items, the 8 and the 9 maybe? Well, the
Is really
COVID, we know.
We've got the COVID, and then the other larger item on there is an overflow drain at Fire Station 2 that had to be relocated to avoid conflicts.
Okay. So I put forth the invoice for 376,443. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you, George. Any questions? Let me just, I had to look at the. plan.
I had a dumb question, which is, with everything opening up as quickly as it is and seeing less and less COVID cases every day, are we going to stop with the COVID costs, or do we generate them right through the end of the project? Have you questioned the contractor and said, are we ready to say, okay, we don't need this item month after month?
Yes, we've had that discussion, George. We're of the opinion that the closeout tonight of the of the executive orders will do it. But however, the COVID was promulgated through the State Department of Transportation, not through the governor's office. So we're
Yeah, but
just
if we wait for them, it'll
Right.
be 2 years from now.
Exactly, but we have not received anything official. Consigli has on their own changed their COVID protocols.
Yep.
I'm leaving the money in the ACL for the time being until I get a more definitive answer from the state.
Okay, because I think a lot of things are tied to the governor's executive order, including DOT's comments about COVID and
Yeah,
and
but
how
but what I found out, it wasn't, George.
it wasn't.
No, DOT promulgated those as a construction, I forget what the exact term was, but it was not done under the governor's state of emergency.
Well, here's where I would lean on Consigli, in my opinion. I think Consigli ought to really lobby these people, because it's costing us X dollars a month for something that, in my opinion, right now is probably not necessary anymore.
And
It was
and
necessary before.
everyone agrees, and that's what I said. They have relaxed their standards. Miles, if you want to.
And do you mind if I jump in?
Yep, go right ahead.
That's what I was just going to say. So George, Ken kind of already noted that we updated our COVID policy right before Memorial Day. Obviously, once the CDC guidance was kicking in the 29th of May in Massachusetts, and really it almost mirrors the CDC. There are a few exceptions, but the most notable one, we used to be 100% mask on site. And if you're fully vaccinated plus 2 weeks, now there are no longer masks on site. There are differences too with cleaning of surfaces in our plant. So a lot of the costs had to do with the labor cleaning both job sites day after day after day. Moving forward, Ken and I talked, you're not going to see those costs. So right now, we're thinking this might be the last COVID charge, but again, we just want to see what happens. But we have updated our plan to almost mirror the CDC guidance at this time.
So I expect that we'll see some cumulative charges put in the ACL, but not necessarily spent until it's resolved that we can bring them back to zero.
Correct. That's the discussion we had, was to leave the money in there for the time being until we have an absolute definitive answer on it.
Okay, because I think in the future, I would personally be hard pressed to approve any change order associated with COVID after this one. That's my opinion.
Yeah, unless it's to remain in compliance with the CDC standards.
CDC has no idea what they're doing with regard to this, but I understand the politics. So that's why I think pressure needs to be put on whoever is necessary to say, hey, it's about time. We did all this so far. It's about time we quit. Maybe Consigli's already doing that.
That is in essence what we have done.
Okay,
As I said, the money is staying in there as a hedge. But as Miles said, right now we're thinking that this will be the last COVID charge that we'll have.
okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote.
I have a question,
Yeah, go ahead, Erwin.
two questions. I'm just curious, Miles, are people required to be vaccinated? Or is it voluntary and you just keep track who is and who isn't?
We're not requiring anyone to be vaccinated, but the rules on site are different if you are vaccinated versus not vaccinated. So if you're not vaccinated, you have to wear a mask, 100%, no exceptions, which is slightly different than the CDC guidance.
Yeah, so I think to George's point, I would still be cautious about saying we're completely out of the woods, and there might be some minimal COVID-related costs depending on who's vaccinated and who isn't, and what measures have to be taken with that kind of circumstance.
And that's what Ken and I have done and why the money's still there. Again, right now, June, I don't anticipate submitting anything, but we'll see how it progresses over the next couple of weeks and months.
And I have a second question, I guess for Ken, but perhaps anyone can answer it. Do we have any clue yet what the planning board might say about what we anticipate the restoration costs to be?
Yeah, we had that meeting with them. And if you noticed on the ACL, there's a line for fence removal. Their only comment beyond what we had presented for the restoration plan, which is covered by this 340,000, is if there was no, I hesitate to use the word immediate, but if there is no future use for hillside contemplated at the time we get into the restoration, they're asking that the fence be taken down, where we had anticipated leaving it up in thinking, well, if school admin goes in there, the fence will be needed for construction activities. If something else goes in there, we might need the fence. They said, no, if there's nothing on the horizon when the time comes, we want the fence to come down. So I put a number in the ACL to accomplish that.
Okay, so there's nothing coming out of left field
No,
from the planning board.
no, they accepted the plan that we presented and are not requiring us to put it back with the bus lanes and the islands and everything else.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. We'll do a roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
That's great.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
chair is aye. Okay. We have a few invoices. I'm going to do 4 of them and then I'll group the remaining together. If there's no objection. The first invoice is the pay requisition number 29 through May 2021 to Consigli. $1,727,492.29 coming out of the general contracting budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
chair is aye. Okay. Next invoice put forth for approval is the Oakers Company for installation of the AV Apple Roku, Blurry, and Shelf for $300 coming out of the technology budget. Do I hear a second? that you, George?
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Irwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
Chair is aye. Okay, next invoice, WB Mason waste can for $89.91 coming out of the FF&E budget. Put forth for approval. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you, Irwin. I'm glad you like the waste cans.
I do.
Any
Being an
questions?
environmental engineer, I always like waste cans.
There you go. I don't think it's a recycling one, but that's okay. Is there any questions?
It says waste basket. I hope it's not one waste basket.
It is, it's a special waste basket for the EMS.
Oh. Okay.
And it's
Makes
actually
sense.
Station 2's. They delivered it. I didn't even know it was there. And they kept telling us that we hadn't paid the bill. So I found it. It is in the station.
Excellent. That makes sense with the price tag now. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Irwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Okay, I have.
Excuse me,
2 and 4.
Stuart, the
Yes.
KBA one wasn't voted on. It was
Thank you.
before
I
the
skipped
Okers.
that. Thank you very
Okay.
much. So I will put forth the next invoice for approval for Castle Booze, May 2021 services coming out of the architectural budget, $23,030.80. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I win.
Roy had that one, I believe. So thank you, Roy. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the roll call. George,
Aye.
Irwin,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler.
Aye.
Chair's aye. Okay. Now, I believe we've got all the singles. I'm gonna group 4, 6, 8, 9 invoices together. I'll read them. They're all coming out of the miscellaneous budget. The first one is for pods for the BX. This is May to June rental, $114.99. Next one is a pods for CP for the same period of time for $114.99. These are ones we've done regularly, so they are the same. Next one is from Milton Cat for the generator rental in June 2021 for $2,612.50. Next 3 are the Needham Police Department for detail on School Street on various dates in May for $1,056. The next Needham Police is for dates in May as well for police detail on School Street, $2,024. And the next Needham invoice of the 3 is for June and a February date as well for $1,448. And the next and final 3 invoices in this pack is UTS of Mass. First is in April's material testing for Chestnut Street, $2,970. Second is for UTS of Mass, May materials testing Chestnut Street for $2,045. And the final UTS of Mass of the 3 is May materials testing for Fire Station 2, $205. These invoices totaled $12,509.48. As I said, coming out of the miscellaneous budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Irwin,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
Chief Schlittler,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. And I believe that's all the invoices for public safety.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, Ken?
No, sir.
Okay, before we sign off on this agenda item, I'd just like to let everybody know, particularly the user group and our partners, this meeting will now shift to an in-person meeting, the next meeting, based on what's happened with the governor's office tomorrow, where the executive order is, I think, I don't know if you call it eliminated or written off or over, but we are now, because we are not a public TV meeting, we will be in person. We have not solved the ability yet to, I believe, dial people in. We'll deal with that, but just want everybody to know we will be in person, and I believe it's the Charles River room at PSAB going forward, and there'll be more information to follow. Just wanted you guys to have a heads up before you sign off. Any questions or comments?
Is it still anticipated that the next public safety discussion will happen a month from now?
I have it on 6/28, or do we gonna do 7/12?
If I can, Stuart, at the moment, I don't see the need for the 6/28 meeting. So it's very likely we will abandon that and just move on to the first meeting in July.
Okay, so if everybody could just stay tuned, it looks like it may be July for the public safety update. That's just for the public safety item here.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Can
Thank
I
you. Yeah, go
uh,
ahead, Steve.
just one item I want to bring to the committee's attention. We've been informed by consigli that the project executive, Christian Reardon, who most of you are familiar with, is leaving and it's going to be replaced by another individual within their organization. That information came down last week.
Leaving consigli or leaving our project?
Leaving consigli.
Oh. Okay. That'll be a loss, in my opinion.
Great.
Miles, you have any comments?
Yeah, I was told, like Steve said, within the last week or two as well, but Jim Herval will be taking over. Jim works on a lot of our K through 12 and public work as well. So we see it as a seamless transition, and Bob and I have been on the job since the proposal and interview, and we don't really see any balls being dropped in the process.
Right. But generally speaking, this is my own personal opinion. We've had a really great relationship with almost everybody at consigli, but Christian, I think, has been an outstanding project executive over the years. So I can pass my comments on if you want to.
Yep, I'll see him on
Miss him.
I'll see him on Thursday, so I'll be sure to tell him. But like I said, I think Ken and Steve would attest. The job's in good hands. It's been going well, and Jim's going to step in, and Bob and I will continue to do what we've been doing.
Good. If you would tell Christian, I'd love to hear from him. He's got my number.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll see him on Thursday, so I'll be sure
Great.
to tell him.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. I will close the agenda item down for public safety, and we'll move to PVC other business.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Night.
Okay, for the committee, I have 4 topics. Let me start with first on the open meeting, as I mentioned, based on tomorrow's executive order being extinguished, I think is the right phrase. We will now be forced into an open meeting in person, simply because we're not on the TV schedule and all that fun stuff. So the June 28th, if I can speak correctly, is in-person meeting, but as Steve said, stay tuned. We may find that we may not need that meeting. So in any event, July 12th will most likely be our first in-person meeting. Catherine has gotten the Charles River room at the PSAB throughout the rest of the year. So that's where we will meet. She'll update, if you can, Catherine, the schedule, and we'll just send it back out to everybody. So at least it has the Charles River versus the TBD on
Sure.
it. And then that'll just remind everybody. Erwin?
Yeah, just a quick question. Do you have any idea at this point what kind of restrictions there would be, if any, for the in-person meeting?
I didn't see anything in the write-up. I'll look for others to comment. I don't know about face masks and everything else. I think it's much like the rest of the public. Besides the public transportation, I think it's by choice, is it not? Or anybody have any other insights?
I think Steve had a meeting with Kate a week or so ago that talked about what requirements were. Steve, can you comment on that?
Yeah, it's pretty much, they're actually out there. All the municipal buildings are open. If you have been vaccinated, no mask required. They still encourage some social distancing. I think we'll take a look at how we set up the room, but I don't anticipate any extraordinary precautions other than trying to keep separation.
So it's essentially honor system that we're using.
Correct.
I think that's pretty consistent with general policies everywhere right now, except hospitals and medical facilities and transportation.
Well, the schools are still requiring masks. We're still wearing masks indoors.
I don't want to comment on that.
Well,
I
we've
know.
got a lot of adolescents that may not be vaccinated.
I
So
understand.
I think it's just being precaution, and we got another
Yep.
week to go. So they've done it
Right.
this long.
Yep.
They'll get through it.
Do it another week.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is, I think we should just, as we get near the meeting, if I can ask Steve and Catherine, if we could just get a confirmation of expectations for the meeting, that would be helpful. And if you need me to call Kate or help, I'm happy to do that, but I think you guys will be closer to it than I will be. Is that okay, Steve and Catherine?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. I have 6 items. So I forgot. We've had 3 other invoices. Sorry, Erwin, do you have something?
But you said it was only 4. Now it's 6.
Well, yeah, I just realized on the invoice thing, it's right in front of me, so my fault. But that's okay.
Okay, just don't make
quick.
it 10.
We'll make it quick. Well, no one else can add anything to the list. How's that? All right. So quickly, the invoices. We have a Jack Cogswell, a Sunita Williams, and a Rosemary Recreation Complex set of invoices. So I'm just going to go down the list. The first one, the Jack Cogswell, there's an invoice for E&E Systems for BMS equipment. That's the building management equipment. May 2021 invoice for $1,500. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Erwin. Any questions? Hear none, see none, coming to the vote. George?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
Roy?
Aye.
Chair is aye. Okay. Sunita Williams, there is one invoice for LAL construction for the Cefello and Sunset Road paving, which I believe we approved a while ago. $49,000. I think it was part of the DPW, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Put forth for approval. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Roy. Any questions?
Do I assume that we pay bill and not transfer money to DPW and they pay it? Is that correct?
We're paying it directly to LAL from the project.
Okay, and it's been completed?
The work has been completed, and This is just the share that is for the associated with the sidewalks going to the school. Does not
Right,
include the balance of the work
on Cephalo
on Cephalo and Sunset.
and Sunset, okay. All right.
Okay.
The neighbors should be happy.
They are very happy.
So is the work, the other work, is that completed as well? That was part of the road work?
Yes, everything is now complete.
Did they completely pave that section of the road going into the back of the school there?
Yes. I don't think that they went all the way down the circle, but they did do sidewalks, crosswalk, accessible corners. So that all of that work is now complete.
Good. You actually have an indication that neighbors are happy?
Yes, in speaking with Ryan, actually one of the neighbors knew his former wife, and he said he had a lengthy discussion with them. One of the neighbors who was previously very boisterous or
Unhappy.
unhappy.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, coming on to the roll call. George,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Irwin,
Aye.
Roy.
Aye.
Chair is aye. The last invoice is the Rosemary Recreation Complex for GNR Constructions, the pool repair concrete at the rail base, $7,241.85. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Irwin. Any questions? Irwin,
A little explanation.
Irwin, do you have a
Sure.
question?
Yeah, a little explanation.
All yours, Mike.
All right. We had some trouble with these rail bases where the fence rails went into the concrete. We had a number of areas where they were spalling, and some areas that weren't. We're just not sure why. We had BH+A come out twice, look at it. We came up with a solution. This solution consists of them chipping out the area that's spalled, and also forming it up, putting in a piece of expansion joint in it around the rail base, and then using a two-part system. One is a liquid Sikaflex in it, and then a caulk around the top to seal it. So it appears that'll work a lot better than the pour rock if water's getting in there and causing this. And we went and reviewed all of them within all the ramps, also within the walls, and they'll be finished up by the end of this week. So we had them come back after 3 years and perform this improvement or repair.
So you're saying it was done to the spec,
Correct.
but it, like most rails going into concrete, it was done poorly.
Well,
Not the work of the contractor, but the design.
George, some areas were 100% fine and others did it. I can't tell you why. One right next to it would be perfect. The other would have spalled. I don't have an answer for you. I mean, like I said,
I've seen this in
twice,
so many
but no.
places. I've seen this in so many places. Somebody ought to come up with a good design that works and put it in all the specs.
So, well,
People end up with spalling and rotting rails, and it's crazy.
I think this repair happens to be a good one. We did have some cracks in the deck from previously, and we had them fixed with the same material, and that material's held up really, really well. So, we've been through at least 2 winters with it on the deck and haven't had any issues. So we basically put our heads together and came up with a better idea, I think, for this. So.
And I think Steve and I spoke about it. I'm just going to add to this piece. Steve and I spoke about it briefly, but I think it's in the best interest for us to move forward on this until we close out the project to make sure we can hand over the project in good shape. So, as much
Correct.
as there's a problem, I wish we had an answer to it, but I think it's a smart move for us to take care of this and then at least hand it over all in one piece.
And GNR, we have GNR's personnel on site doing the work. Last time we had Larkin Ironworks on site doing it, and you know, they hemmed and hawed and bucked about it when they had to come back. And I don't know if you guys all recall, they had to come back. You know, they didn't finish all the railings when they were supposed to on the project. So,
Yeah.
And we had to put in all the temporary ones and take those out, put in the new ones, and et cetera. So I don't want to rehash it, but that's what it is. And just to follow up on that, this is for 80% of the work that's been done. They'll finish up next week. The final bill will be in. That quote's in for I think $8,996. We're paying around 80 some odd percent now. And the shelving's also been ordered for there. That's coming in this week. So by the end of the month, that project's 100% complete. We don't have any more money. I'm not going to spend any more money on it unless somebody directs me to. But we've got about 39,000 left in that budget after all this is done and paid for.
Okay, great. So we may see an opportunity to rescind that at some point in the next month.
Yeah, correct. Right after these last invoices are paid.
Okay,
So.
good.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the roll call. George?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
Did I hear Erwin? Oh, sorry, thanks. Roy?
Aye.
Chair is aye. Okay, great. That's all the invoices, Catherine?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, that takes care of that topic. 5 more topics for you, Erwin. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly mention before 2 quick project updates. We've been asked to stagger the board terms. Just FYI, it seems like we all are expiring the end of this month, 6/30/2020, or they did last year and we didn't. So if there's no objections, I was going to stagger everybody over 3 years. I will communicate out, but essentially what I was looking at, and if there's any objections, we can take it offline, but I was going to put Jean and George on for next year, myself and Roy 23, and then Richard and Erwin on 24. Those are the expiration dates. We just renew as we move forward. I was asked to stagger it because that helps the term of all these boards.
Do we have to have to go to town hall and get approved again by the town clerk?
I believe so. I think
Will you just let us know that?
Correct. Will do that. If there's any concern in terms of terms, please let me know. And also,
my contract clearly didn't call for that.
is that a union
Okay,
rule
well,
or something?
okay. Then I'll vote for doubling your pay.
Thank you. Then now I'm in.
We have one more board. Natasha has resigned simply because she was voted in as planning board. We do have a candidate we are reviewing. I do have to find out if anybody else has responded to the ad. So there'll be one more person on one of these years' terms that will be added. So if there's no objection, I'll move forward. Again, if any issues, please let me know. We can discuss this outside of this meeting. I don't think there's any open meeting law regarding this. I've put it forth. Nothing's hidden. It's just trying to align to the request of the board setup. Only remaining 2 topics, other than if anybody else has some. I know Erwin has about 3 more items he would like to bring up, but that's okay. The Jack Cogswell Solar, and then also the school master plan activity update. So first, if I can go to the Jack Cogswell, and maybe Hank or Steve, I think the real update is just simply where are we on the timeline and the next set of actions, which, if I can preempt it, is that right now we have paid for part of the application to go forward, but we still have one major step, which is the SMART program application. In parallel, working with the town committees, I guess, the select board and others to start to support a policy, because we know there is an amount of money that would be spent out of the contingency. We do have the money in the contingency to spend, but given the size, I think as a board, we have taken an approach that after a certain amount, we'd prefer to have outside support. Given that this is the solar and actually has a bigger topic, is renewable energy in the town and so forth, we feel it would be important to make sure that we get the support and see support in the town before we take action going forward. We need to see some of that. But preempting that, I don't know, Hank, do you want to sort of bring it into focus here just quickly, where we stand?
Yeah, I believe that all of you received the schedule, although I did get a few bounce backs. Everything that's in green, highlighted in green, on the upper left-hand corner here is complete as of today. We did receive a de minimis change from the planning board approving the solar array on the rooftop. And there's, as Stuart mentioned, we're gaining consensus. We'd like to complete that no later than October, earlier if possible. Gaining consensus to proceed. We do not want to make this a little bit smaller. We do not want to incur significant costs, further costs, unless we do gain consensus. And the next big line item would be to pay into a payment to Eversource so that they can initiate their design, and then a second payment. The total of those two payments here would total around $20,000. There is a much smaller fee for the SMART fee, and we are where it's laid out here. I was told recently by the administrator of the SMART program that we had to wait until we had the contractor on board, but there seems to be some ongoing discussion with Beth Greenblatt and her interpretation of the regulations, indicating that we might be able to proceed with that SMART program application now. And it's a bit more than I had mentioned previously. It's in the $1,012 range, not $700. I'm assuming that the committee wouldn't balk at spending that. By spending that and completing the application, we would lock in the SMART payment schedule for the project. The Eversource, the turnaround of their detailed design could take 3 months or so. And we could be concurrently going forward with the bid documents in the bid, so that as soon as we get their documents back, we would be able to have the bid in hand, have all the costs, anticipated costs in hand, and make the final go, no-go decision around February of 2022. Now, if we can gain consensus to proceed sooner than this, then it would just, these timelines would move forward accordingly. And the way this is currently laid out, we would anticipate 3 months for the submittal review, and only 2 months for construction. Both of these will depend upon availability of materials. I haven't heard that solar panels are backlogged, but there is that possibility, as there have been backlogs in other and supply chain issues in other construction materials. And this schedule would target an August going live date, with the interconnection occurring in August, and then being awarded the net metering and smart confirmed in September of 2022. If we can move it backward in time, then we would hit the primary months for solar gain, which typically start in March and April and continue through October. But this may be the most rapid schedule that we could achieve. Any questions about that?
Well, I have one. You said that there's some consensus growing. Can you share with us your thoughts about that?
The select board is actively pursuing a goal towards sustainability within the town. It's very much in discussion. And I think that they would make that as part of their this year and next year's goals. And they've asked, Karis can chime in on this, but they've asked a small group to assist in the drafting of those goals and what the implication of those goals would be. Simultaneous with that, as you all may be aware, the governor has set state goals for achieving net zero by 2050. And what that really means is an 85% reduction of 1990 carbon production, a reduction from that amount, I think it's 1990 or 1998, which was the starting year. And to achieve that by 2050, there are also goals set for 2030 and 2040 within the state. And if you're interested, I can forward links to you about those goals. Erwin, maybe you're already teaching this in your class, I don't know. But they are goals, and they not only relate to building, but they relate to energy production and transportation, and then also carbon sequestration. Do you want to add anything, Erwin?
Only that I've said this before, I think there's almost a philosophical reason to move forward on this. And there's some intangibles that you might not see at the moment, but we have to head toward a future where we're less and less dependent on non-renewable forms of energy and more dependent on renewable. And this is very interwoven into the AP curriculum. It's one of the 3 pillars. Renewable energy is one of the 3 pillars of the curriculum, along with recycling and solar driven life on the planet. So I just think this is something the town, the state, and the country has to keep embracing.
I see the biggest obstacle to be the finance committee. So my question is, has anybody thought about the next steps that we have to go to the finance committee and start convincing them that we should spend this money to do this?
I think George, I think that I proposed to Kate and Dave Davidson to, I think we need to get Dave Davidson's perspective, because one thing that's looming, and I'm not sure it's clear, and I'm not going to suggest that we go down this discussion today, but with the amount that can be generated by the solar panels on the Cogswell building is far exceeds what its usage is today. But who says it doesn't, the overage doesn't decrease if we go to more electric cars and that becomes a center hub for charging? Also, if it can get tied together to the rest of the RTS, or that I guess the state or the electric utility could see all buildings together, and that the pool of it, with us putting stuff back in and being used by other buildings in other locales, so to speak. I mean, that's kind of what carbon credits are, but does that now balance it? Does Dave Davidson have a financial issue with the town? Are we perceived as a producer? We need that answered, and the select board need to be in a position to where I think Matt Borelli is somebody who has voiced concern about that amount of money. He has not been adamantly against. He's just wondering that and if I've misstated it, I will correct myself, but he likes the idea, but given the size of the money and where we have other spending, there's concern. So I don't think the select board is fully on board, but they need to do a policy. Mo Handel was very much ready to start moving on this topic if he was reelected, but he wasn't. So Kate has offered to talk to Matt, and I would like to call Matt. I think Dave Davidson and the select board, if we get consensus there, then I think it goes to the finance committee. If you have a different opinion and a different approach, let's discuss that. I was going to say discuss it offline, then we can go back to the committee, but that's, George, I think how I was looking at it.
Well, there's two issues, and again, I don't want to make this a big long meeting about solar, but there's two issues, and they've been on the table for about a year and a half. One is this ominous sense that Dave Davidson could say, we're not, we can't do this as a town. We ought to be able to make that decision. Some kind of an executive decision as to whether or not we can or can't, or what's going to take to do that. If other towns can do that, why can't we do it?
Well,
that's my first
George, I
question.
don't think it's, sorry to interject, but I'm not suggesting that we're waiting for Dave to make a choice for us. I think there's a data point that we have to get on the table for people to understand. And that's the financial implications, if there is any.
Well, I think somehow we've got to get through that issue, because that is still an issue, I think, that we're not sure that we can even be a generator of solar if we're not going to be using it in the facility we generated it.
Right.
And the second issue, which I thought we were going to get from Ms. Greenblatt, is, and Hank, you might be able to answer this, is can we use this to offset other electrical uses in the town, such as a school like Newman, that if we generate X kilowatt hours at the station, that goes against what we spend for electricity at Newman. Is that something that has been looked at by Beth?
I believe that we can. I need to get the details of that.
Do we have anything from Eversource that we can do that?
Well,
that would be great.
What we did at the RTS was they asked for a Schedule Z, so the total production of all of the meters within the town. In this instance, what I'm recommending is that we look solely at the RTS and the 4 meters that are at the RTS, because the total production on the rooftop of the Jack Cogswell building is about equal to all of the meter requirements for those 4 meters at the RTS. And that would pretty much balance out the RTS if we can get the net metering credits against those other meters, which I believe that we can. We would probably need to amend our prior Schedule Z for the landfill solar. But there was plenty of capacity to take up the difference within the total town demand. Now, it would be great, I think, if the RTS could be fully self-sufficient from an energy perspective.
True, I agree.
And that I think is an easy explanation to members of the various boards and committees, and a fairly easy explanation to others within town. This Jack Cogswell building, by the way, would potentially become the first net zero building in town.
Right. Now, does
potentially-
that also depend on getting our approval through the land court?
No, that actually complicates it, but
Well, are we ever going to get that approval? I mean,
I'll
don't
let-
we need that? Don't we need that before we can proceed with the solar aspect at Jack Cogswell?
no, but we do need that land court approval before we can close out the planning board permit.
Okay,
And
so that's it's a separate issue from solar.
yes and no. In initial discussions, the Eversource seemed to be able to divorce the landfill solar from a rooftop solar because the landfill solar is not owned by the town. So they see
Okay.
that as a separate entity, even though it's on the same site.
Okay,
And
good.
that's the theory behind that argument. And right now, before the lands get consolidated, it actually is a separate site. So that does confuse things a little.
Okay. Well, I think we really do have to address the issue with Dave Davison.
Yes, and there's one issue with Dave, and his interpretation is that if we're generating money from a building and that building was constructed through borrowed funds, that we're limited as to the amount of money that we can earn and still maintain our nonprofit status, our governmental status, which is a tax exempt status. So his concern, and we may need to have DOR or somebody else weigh in on this, his concern is that would potentially compromise not only the bonds associated with the Jack Cogswell building, but other bonds issued by the town.
Can I ask a simple question?
Yeah.
How come all kinds of other towns are doing this stuff?
Yeah.
That's my simple question. How come other towns are doing this at a much more rapid rate than we are? And
But
I
isn't
can't.
there, but isn't there a situational circumstance where if you look at what Sunita Williams is doing, there was a level of demand that's higher than what the solar is doing? Isn't the whole issue is the amount, and because we already have net metering at RTS, it's still, the Jack Cogswell, I think, is still considered an individual piece, thus the over generation. But that's what we need to answer, I think. I think we are going to be doing it in different locations, but I don't think there's a situation like this in the other towns that generate so much electricity with the building not using much.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's the question. And I think we will need to need to get it written down by Dave Davison, and we'll need to get a clarification from town council. And
Yep.
so we'll proceed on that next.
Okay.
And even if, I think the idea of potentially having that solar operational that could help us become a townwide charging station for town vehicles has got to be built into the design. Even though we don't know that, but I'll bet money we're going to be buying electric vehicles for town vehicles over the next 10 years. And somewhere there's going to have to be a charging station, or maybe 10 of them, who knows? But Jack Cogswell would be an ideal location to have a charging station with solar on the roof and power available.
Well, I'm currently working with Caris and DPW, and we have a grant application in for the installation of additional charging stations in 3 locations, 4 plugs at the PSAP building, 2 in the downtown parking lot, and 2 at the Rosemary Pool Complex. That would supplement the 2 that are already at 470 Dedham Avenue and the 4 plug points that are at Sunita Williams. So the state grant funding through, it's called Mass EVIP. It's for public charging in public areas, and they're trying to spread that across the Commonwealth and create an additional, I guess $500,000 is what the federal goal is across the country. But some of the funding for these is actually coming from a settlement with VW on their diesel violation.
But I'm talking about having a place where town vehicles could be charged other than the public places.
Yes, and that would be easily added to this location. The town might at that point also want to consider putting in batteries to store the energy so that the actual energy that's produced can be used to recharge. But Karis, maybe you can speak to the fleet program and the commitment that Green Communities' commitment toward EV purchases in the future.
So right now, the commitment that we have under Green Communities is that we would buy the most energy efficient vehicle practicable that's available for that purpose. Right now, for our light duty pieces of equipment, so types of equipment that we're using for people movers, we have invested in hybrid or plug-in vehicles, and we anticipate on doing that more in the future. For the medium to heavy duty pieces, there currently aren't market items in 4-wheel drive that would meet the needs of Public Works available. But that being said, I believe Ford has just come out with its first F-150 as a plug-in for its 2022 or 2023 models. So we do know that this is coming. So we are looking at investing in the infrastructure for it. We just don't currently have equipment that we anticipate buying in the next 2 or 3 years that would meet this requirement. But we do anticipate that when those models are available, that we would look into them very seriously as how we would fill out our fleet utilizing those pieces of equipment.
And also the state has been offering incentive programs for fleet upgrades, and I won't get into all the details, but I've been doing some research on the net zero target, and transportation is about 1/3 of the problem or the potential resolution of the transition to from carbon, away from carbon toward electric.
Okay, I just want to bring us back to from the update. So the reality is we still need to run the consensus track. It's important to see if we can get the SMART application done for the simple sake of locking into a bracket of the rates, and then getting Dave Davidson to help us really understand. I don't disagree with. I'll go out on a limb, but as a committee, I think if push comes to shove, I think we may take a bold move to approve this. But I think it's important to get the consensus given the amount of money here, and assuming that and there's not a financial issue to the town, but actually a benefit. So let's cross that bridge when we get there. But I wanted to make sure everybody was appreciating what Hank has done to get a couple things in place, and then also what we're trying to contend with these action items. Okay. If there's no other questions or comments regarding Jack Cogswell, I just want to quickly wrap up. I hope, I know I'm simplifying that quickly, but I would just like to ask maybe Steve and George for just a quick synopsis on the school master plan. It's the financial working committee that Kate has assembled to grapple with these projects and go forward. There's been one meeting and there's a follow-up meeting. I think it's next week, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see it on my calendar this week. But Steve and George, do you want to just give a quick the discussion and what the next action is?
I think Steve has that information. Steve?
The man in the dark.
Steve, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. The next meeting is in 2 weeks. At that time, we've been in discussion with the school superintendent, with Dan, and he in turn has been in discussion with Kate. We're anticipating giving a brief update, about a 20-minute, 15 to 20-minute presentation recapping the school master plan for the benefit of the task group, such that we explain why we entered into the school master plan and what the results were and why the specific results are important to for consideration going forward. At the meeting, we do anticipate as a action item from the last meeting that Dave Davison is going to make a preliminary forecast projection as to the impact of moving forward with school admin. So those numbers have been reaffirmed. There was a concern that the spike in the marketplace and the market conditions that we're seeing would change the anticipated costs of both the school program and at least the initial move out to Hillside as a temporary for school admin. And in evaluating those conditions and the estimate that we drove, we requested that we remain with the numbers that we have for the purposes of planning. So we do anticipate also that Dave has been pressured to look at the scenario of Scheme D and include that in his projections. So we should get, for the first time, some indication of what the impact to the borrowing rate and impact to the taxpayers are. And at least once we have that information, we can do a, drill down to another level to see what needs to be done, what can be done with regard to the spread of those projects.
I think, Steve, if I could just add a comment about that, I think the question that I had, which was, can Dave Davison come up with an idea as to how much we could afford, was raised actually by FinCom to him. And in essence, by encouraging him to go back and look at the numbers we're proposing out of the master plan, he's being asked to come up with, based on those numbers, what could we afford? And I think he should come back with that information as well, which will be helpful.
Yeah, except the feedback we're getting is that we are all currently over the 10%. So the question is, what you can afford is not a simple, there's not a simple line in drawing to that specific number. And
well, I don't know how he's going to do it, but he probably would come back and say how much over the 10% this would drive us to.
Correct. But a dialogue as to what is affordable is still out there.
Yeah.
10% isn't a red line.
Right. If you did that, you wouldn't do anything until you came below 10%, which is not going to happen in this town.
Yep.
But on the
I'd
other
like to
hand,
say we're in a
probably,
sticky position as a town, but
yeah,
I think that's the purpose of that committee and that working group, is to see if there's a way to puzzle through that. But if I may just get to the point, is there any other updates? I don't want to solution or policy those decisions, but I thought it was important just to provide the committee some insight, where that working group stands. So the meeting's in 2 weeks to continue the conversation. Am I correct?
correct.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Steve or George?
Stuart, can I update the committee on some Jack Cogswell stuff?
Sure. But first, we're all set with the working committee on the school master plan. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
I just wanted to inform people, I don't know, and I think we're running short on time. I can share some slides. But basically the idea, there's been a start of a conversation about Jack Cogswell landscape. We've lost 3 trees out front. And if you don't mind, I'll just share the screen if I can get it going.
Erwin, you had that in your back pocket. That makes 10 items.
I know, that's why I was hesitant to bring this up. Can you see that one?
How'd you know I had it?
Wow. Because the way you made the comment, so I don't feel so guilty. All right, go ahead, Steve.
I'll just try to go quick. And I'm not asking for you to vote on this or anything. It's just to be aware that I might be asking for money for some trees. 2 of the oak trees are dying here. And 1 arborvitae is dying here. Comments were brought up at the de minimis meeting for the Jack Cogswell solar that it's starting to look a little rough out there, and there's some weeds in here. So I'm going to be getting price quotes for these trees. And here's the dead arborvitae. And then in this area over here on the left, there's some weeds in there. So basically, I'll get a replacement price for the trees. And then DPW is requesting that PVVC assist with the payment of the removal of the weeds as this temporary certificate of occupancy has drawn out. They didn't allocate a certain amount of money for maintenance. So I'll be getting that quote and I'll come back. So I guess that's the main point I am trying to make.
Are the trees not on warranty?
Unfortunately, the warranty's expired. It's been over a year since they were installed. I'm going to call Arello and see what it would take to replace them, or if there's any
Well,
extension of the warranty.
I would just ask him,
Yeah.
say these things died, the others didn't, you know, we didn't do anything to cause this. I would ask him to come and replace them. Warranty
Okay,
or no
I'll ask
warranty.
him. Yeah, Karis has left. I'm going to go out there on Wednesday with Karis, Bob Lewis, Greg Smith, and Eddie Olson. And we're going to kind of just walk the site. And then the landscape architect's going to come out Wednesday afternoon and look at it as well to determine exactly what you're saying. Why did these trees die? Was it a bad location? Was it improperly installed or something like that? So I'm just letting you know I'm having those conversations. But in terms of, I was asked to get a feel for PBBC sentiments on spending $3,000 to $5,000 of project money for the weeding. It's not technically a project expense, but they don't have funds for it in their budget, and they're approaching me as the project manager for the project. So I'll put that out there. If people have comments, if they feel strongly one way or the other, I will appreciate hearing what they are.
I would ask that we share a few comments if need be, but not get into a big debate. And I'm just going to kick it right off. What concerns me is what we've talked about as a committee for a long time. We put these buildings up, we hand them over, and there's not sufficient maintenance to cover it. If we had closed this project out, I don't know what they would do operationally. So, you know, maybe the goodness of leaving this project in good shape to close it out is above and beyond, but I hesitate, but I think we probably should do it. But I think we've talked a long time about maintenance here.
We just, Stuart, to add to that, we did have a conversation today, Steve and myself, with Karis about this, and for reasons, specific reasons on this project, that the bridge just didn't occur. And she's aware of it, and we're aware of the need to coordinate to a greater degree so that they can provide the necessary services, since it's basically a year to plug in the services into the CIP, into their budgets. It wasn't done this time, and they're flat out of money. So I think the concept of what needs to be done, we're working through that. It seems like we're not at odds with regard to that. It's a question of having to provide that handoff in a timely manner so that they can put it in their budgets and take care of it, which wasn't done specifically for this item here.
I can understand that. I agree with Stuart. On the other hand, the project really hasn't been closed out. We were doing knotweed stuff as well. It's like we were still working on it, but we were ready to hand it over. So it was a little confusing, I think. But I definitely think it looks shabby, because I was out there and I couldn't believe how lousy it looked. It didn't look like a real nice finished product. The other comment I wanted to make is I am assuming that island section is being considered as essentially a minimal maintenance issue. In other words, put down there whatever you need to put down there so that you don't have to mow anything, you don't have to weed much. It becomes an area that doesn't require a lot of maintenance. And I think a few inches of mulch in there should take care of a general weeding issue. I don't think they put down a lot of mulch. And there's virtually nothing you can do to kill off an arborvitae.
Yeah, I think that's why it's, I'm not an expert at landscaping, but I think it'll come from Eddie and Jean, the landscape architect, the level of care that was intended in the design and what is expected to be maintained over time. Because
Right.
one person might think it wants to be manicured and the other person might think it's wild looking. It's one of those kind of naturalistic landscapes.
Yeah, I think there are ways of doing this so that you really don't need to spend a large amount of time keeping it well landscaped. It will take care of itself if you design it properly. And I'm sure Ed Olson would agree with that.
Okay,
But those are my only comments.
thank you.
Any other comments from anybody? Okay, great. So we'll hear a follow-up from that, Steve, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. With that, I don't believe there's any other topics. And if there is no other topics, going once, going twice. Excellent. So we will draw a close to the Monday, June 14th, 2021 Permanent Public Building Committee. Have a great week, everybody.
You too.